Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Earth Day Conscious Wealth Creation Day Summit. I am here today joined by some extraordinary women who are focused on our planet as well as our wellness and wealth. And so, my name is Hannah Olivas. I'm one of the team members and CEO at She Rises Studios. And yesterday was Earth Day, but before we came on and started this live, I was just saying that every day should be Earth Day, and someone said it should be a state of mind. And so, what you're going to hear today are some very powerful and strategic ways to really step in as a woman in business or as a woman, period, into what we're going to discuss today and how we can be a solution and an outcome for so many. So, I want to start from the beginning and share that this is not a celebration, this is not a confrontation. It is a reality. It's what we're bringing today is an understanding of choices that we have made over time and what the truth is about our planet where we all live, we all share together. And so we hear through a lot of the news that our planet is failing us, but the truth is it's not. We, as individuals, as human beings, are failing the planet. And I don't say that lightly or with judgment, it's just the reality. I say that as a mother, I say that as a businesswoman, and as a leader building a global economic system. And as a human being who is watching, just like you, what is happening in real time. And so, a lot of what we're going to discuss today is not things that we're going to talk about someday, but things that we're going to talk about right now, today. Families right now are losing homes to wildfires that burn faster and hotter than ever before. Right now, mothers are standing in grocery stores holding their breath, not because of prices, but because they don't know what's actually in the food that they're feeding their children. Right now, communities are being displaced because water is rising or disappearing altogether. And right now, people are getting sick more, and it's not random, but it's environment. And here's what's even harder to look at and know is that we've normalized this. Every single one of us, in some way, shape, or form, has normalized seeing this happen. We've adapted to dysfunction, we've adjusted to crisis. Oftentimes, if you really look at it, you see something come across your screen and you'll turn it off because you've adapted. It's become the new norm. We've made the unacceptable feel like routine. But I refuse to be one to normalize a dying planet. And I hope after you hear what we share today, you feel the same. Because this is where we have to go deeper. This is where we can be the change. And this just isn't only environmental, this is economic. So, I want to talk to you about sustainability without economic backings. It's really nothing but a conversation unless we can openly and honestly talk about climate change. We can openly and honestly post about Earth Day and the contributions that we make. We can share real, true statistics, articles, awareness that matters. We can actively change this right now, here, today. But if money is not behind the solution, and this is where the consciousness of the planet and the economic come together into one, because one cannot coexist without the other. We need money to be able to make the changes to make this planet a better place for not just those of us who are currently occupying the space, but for those who are coming behind us, because there are generations following us. And so right now, there's this major due diligence right now that's needed more than ever. And I'm so honored to say I know so many women business owners who love planet Earth, who build sustainable businesses and models around environment, climate change, water, all of it. And they're successful. And I love and support every single one of them. It lights me up to see a woman say, not only do I want to be a woman in business, or not only do I want to just be a woman, I want to be a woman who gives, who leads, who provides solutions. And that stuff matters. And so where money flows, change can grow across the board. And it can be right now, literally. There are so many causes that exist right now that we as women in business or in general can pour into, right? But if we ourselves are empty, then we cannot fill someone else's cup. We cannot support someone else's cause. So money is an absolute necessity. Money can flow into destruction faster than it can flow into restoration. So let's ask why. Well, we know why. It's because of who controls the money. It's because of who's controlling funding the future. You've seen over the course of the last year several departments that matter that have been shut down due to what? Lack of money, lack of support, lack of being overlooked, underrepresented. So who decides what survives and what doesn't? Who has that say so? I do. You do. We do. Because make no mistake about this. This is not just about the planet. This is about power. And a lot of people want power. But power, if it's put in the wrong hands, can cause a huge ripple effect that directly affects where you and I live, eat, breathe, sleep, raise children, grow gardens, grow businesses, take vacations to. So what are we doing? That's the question, the $1 million question. So today we're poking the bear. Today's the day. And I'm probably going to get a lot of rapid fire remarks from this, but you know what? It's okay. I wore my army shirt, so I'm ready, locked and loaded. So why does this theme matter so much today, right now, this topic, this discussion? Here it is. It's our planet. It's our power. O-U-R. Ours. Meaning we share. But we haven't been sharing. We haven't shared the planet. We haven't shared the power. And we just haven't fully used it in the way that it was meant to be. So every dollar that you spend is a decision. And every business you build is a statement. Every room you walk into or don't is a missed or taken opportunity to influence change. And I'm not talking about networking rooms. I'm talking about the rooms that are in existence that can make real change for what I'm referring to. I'm not talking about let's go to lunch and sit and network and you tell me what you do and I tell you what I do and we do our little 30-second spiel. I'm talking about having the uncomfortable conversations that are required to talk about our planet and our power and how we can collaborate and use them wisely together. There's going to be a lot of rebuilding that's going to need to happen. Here's the fun part. We are the most and when I say we, I'm talking about women specifically, are the most underutilized economic force in the world. And it isn't because we're smarter, it isn't because we work harder. That's some of it. But we also still currently, as of today, make up more than half the population on the planet. So we're more in numbers, we're more in talent, we're more in emotional intelligence, we're more in skill set. All of those things are true. So what's happening? Why aren't we utilizing these things? We watch businesses open faster than the speed of light on a daily basis from around the globe. But as quick as those businesses open, they close. They go into debt. Before this call, I sat on another call with a woman, and she told me her story. And all I wanted to do was hug her because she's so far down, she can't see the light. But she has a power that she doesn't know exists. And that story isn't the first time I've heard it, and it won't be the last. And so all of these things come together. Earth Day is everything that happens on Earth. Everything. It doesn't eliminate one thing. One thing isn't less important than the other. It really is our planet, our power. So I want to ask you to imagine something. If women had access to capital, true capital, if women were fully funded, if women were really leading at every level of decision making, do you believe we would still be here? What do you think? I don't think so. Because women build differently. We build with intention. We build with awareness. We build with legacy in mind. We do the hard work and the heart work at the same time. Women are extremely emotionally intelligent, not just emotional. So, why is today so important? Because today is the day that we become conscious. Capital is climate action, meaning that everything that we do within our businesses affects our climate, our environment, and everything that happens in our climate and environment affects our businesses. We watch businesses get taken out from hurricanes, and we watch people have to rebuild. Typhoons, earthquakes, the list goes on and on. So why not come together and bring the economy and the environment, the climate together and see what that looks like with individuals who truly care, that want to make the change, not surface level, but to get uncomfortable and do the things that are meant to be done. Because a lot of people, contrary to what I know to be true, think we have all the time in the world, but we don't. So today's that day to get into action. So I'm going to bring this to a close for you, and then I'm going to bring on our next incredible, powerful speaker. This is just not about billion-dollar corporations. It's actually way deeper than that. This is about you, the products that you buy, the businesses that you support, the products that you use, the conversations that you have, the standards you accept. You don't need to be perfect, but you absolutely must be aware of what's happening. Because here's the reality we don't talk about enough. And that is, there are children today who will grow up in a completely different world than we ever did. And I am concerned. I have grandchildren and a teenage daughter. And I don't want it to be different. I want it to be better. Better air, better food, better access to resources. I want them to have better expectations of what normal is. I don't ever want them to feel lack or fear. And the question we have to ask ourselves is this: are we okay with that? Because if we're not, then we have to do something different. And it doesn't always have to be louder. It definitely doesn't need to be a trend, but it definitely has to be different. We have to build businesses, bridges that are aligned with sustainability. We have to invest in solutions and not just talk about them. We have to do and demand better from brands, from leaders, and from systems. And we have to stop waiting, because no government is going to come fast enough. No policy is going to move strong enough, and no single organization is going to fix this at the level that it needs to be fixed. It is, truth be told, going to take every single one of us. And I know that it can feel overwhelming. I personally feel it almost on a daily. So I want to reframe it for you really quick. And I want you to think about it differently. One, you're not powerless. Two, you're positioned. You're positioned in your home. You're positioned in your business. You're positioned in your community. You're positioned to influence more than you realize through your businesses, through your voices. And when you combine that with others who are also choosing to lead, that's when momentum turns into systems. That's when conversation turns into capital. And that's when awareness turns into action. And that's when change actually happens. So today, I don't want you to leave here inspired, or I don't want your inspiration to fade. I want you to leave activated after hearing what these women are bringing to the forefront. Activated in how you think, activated in how you spend, activated in how you lead, activated in how you show up for the planet starting today. Because one day we are going to be asked, what did we do in this moment? When we knew, when we saw, and when we had the opportunity to respond. And I don't know about you, but I refuse to say I posted about it. Go look at my Facebook. I posted about it. I want to say I funded solutions. I built differently. I used my voice. I changed how I lived. I became a part of the answer, because at the end of the day, the planet reflects our priorities. So the real question is, what are yours? Our power, our planet, our responsibility. So if you're ready to step into that, please connect with me, reach out to me, and let's do a deeper dive. And one more thing before I bring on the next extraordinary speaker. So many people watched a space shuttle go around the moon. And instead of embracing what could come in a positive manner, it was pulled apart. It became a controversy. Well, why didn't they land? Why didn't this? Why didn't that? That kind of language and conversation is what directly affects our power and our planet. We're always devaluing and diminishing the good things that could come from exploratory, investigative learning. So we have to be open to that. We have to have an open mind and have a willingness to learn and understand before speaking. So the old saying, think before you speak. Because that mission that they did took one brave woman and some brave men to fly out in the middle of nowhere, leave their families, not knowing, truth be told, if they would come back. And they did it. And can you imagine what they were looking at from inside that space shuttle, looking at our planet? Do you think they were up there thinking our planet, our power? Do you think they were up there looking for solution? I bet you with all my heart they were. They were looking at it from a different lens, and most of us will never be able to look at it from that lens. So expand your minds and understand it's our power and our planet together. So I'm so excited to bring on our next extraordinary woman of the hour. She is no stranger to She Rises Studios stages, rooms, and systems. And so please help me welcome Kathy Baldwin. She is an extraordinary business bottleneck strategist. She has over 40 years of experience helping founders identify and eliminate the hidden constraints that limit growth. She specializes in building systems that create scalable, sustainable businesses. Please help me welcome Kathy Baldwin.
Hello. I absolutely love everything that you said, Hannah. What you were just talking about is the why of what I do, because I truly, truly believe that when each and every one of us are consciously independent and have all of our needs met at whatever wealth scale that is for each of us, then we can fix any problem in the world. We can clean every ocean. We can feed every child. We can do all of these things that we're so passionate about for the earth. So thank you for that amazing talk that you just gave. So last week at the She Rises Summit, it's funny that Hannah was talking about that. I was talking about the shuttle. And I was talking about it from the macro and the micro perspective, and how we could bring those various perspectives into our businesses. And it's funny how that conversation has evolved, because for those of you who were at She Rises Studios Coffee Connect this morning, we did have an entire conversation about how macro versus micro connected to our businesses. And there were a lot of points and questions that came up. So I actually totally changed how I was planning on speaking today. And I love metaphors and imagery, so I'm going to bring that in. And because I talked about the space shuttle last week, I'm going to talk about a tree. Now, when we think about macro versus micro in our businesses, macro is the design. It's the big picture. It is the big design of what we're building. And micro is the to-do list. It's the busy work. It's the daily things that we need to do. And so as a bottleneck strategist, where I help businesses figure out how they can buy back time by systemizing their business, be able to scale and grow by creating systems, I wanted to explain the differences between technology, tools, automation, and what is systems. So play with me for a few minutes here. I want you to think about the way corporations are built right now. You've got the sales and marketing and accounting and distribution. You've got the management team. You've got all these different departments. And that's what we have built most of our businesses on that issue or that whole structure. But what you probably never thought about was all of the friction and all of the gaps and all of the bottlenecks created meetings to solve these problems. And so many times, these new businesses, founders that are coming up, they get caught up in these friction gaps and bottlenecks and are constantly putting out fires or troubleshooting or fixing one problem. So you're jumping from one problem to another. When we think about conscious wealth and conscious business building, my belief is that we consciously create the entire ecosystem with the design at the macro level. And then we build it out so that it supports us. So we don't have to be working in the business instead of on the business, as one of those cliches have been coming out and saying recently. So I heard someone say that a system is like having a CRM. I want to break that myth. A CRM is a tool, it's not a system. Funnels are a tool, websites are a tool. These are different tools that help bring your vision and your mission to fruition. So let's play with the tree analogy here. If we think about wanting to plant a cherry tree, we want really strong roots that are cherry based. And so that has to be the purpose, the direction, your vision, your goals. What kind of client experience you want to create? What is your intention that you are building this entire business on? Once you have those strong roots, now a trunk can grow. And the trunk is the systems. It is the structure. It is the foundation. It is that which the roots are going to be able to grow from. And so that is where you are creating how decisions are made, how the client experience is experienced, how you deliver, and then you build out your system to deliver it. It's what takes the vision and your intention and brings it into reality. Now, from there, you have the branches. And your branches, let's think about it as your offers, your services, your client pathway, your journey, your offer stack, all of that. That is how your business expands. That's how it creates the canopy, if you think about a big tree. The leaves of the tree are the visibility. That's the thing that people see. And so that is your marketing, your content, your speaking engagements. This is the energy. This is what draws people to you. Because a trunk sitting there is not, you never see someone sitting under a trunk and enjoying the moment. It is the leaves that actually create the full experience and draws people to your business. Now, from there is the sap. And the sap is what is feeding the trunk, the branches, the leaves. And that is your sales processes. That is your onboarding. That is the part that creates the flow, the movement, so that everything gets delivered for your clients. So I want you to really think about when you are building a consciously built business, you don't want to become a slave to it. That business should feed you as much as the business feeds your clients and as much as it feeds the world. And when we build a business that frees us because it's supported by systems, now we have the freedom to do everything that Hannah was just talking about. So I want you to think about what in your business is a tool, because tools are replaceable. Tools grow. Tools are like a hammer. I think I used this analogy recently. If you were to use a hammer in every situation, it wouldn't necessarily work because it's the application behind the tool. It is when you bring that tool into existence, because a hammer is not the right tool for every application. And so when you're building out your business and you are building it consciously so that you can grow and thrive, what are your tools? And how do they get structured into the system of your business? What is the ecosystem? When you're choosing what tools to bring in, the thing I want you to think about is what is yours? What is human? Where are the decisions? Where is the vision? Where is the imagination, the creativity? That belongs in the human hands. But everything that can be replicated, duplicated, can be systematized. And that is the difference between thinking about a new tool for every problem versus building and designing a system that utilizes tools. Does that make sense? I hope so. Because where things break, which is what I do, I take a look, and this is something that is amazing because this is my 40 years of work. This is what I have done my entire life. It may have been based in sales and operations, but it was all based on root cause analysis. It was based on looking for corrective action, finding creative new solutions. And so there's 3 areas that you are going to figure out whether you need to build in a system or you need a new tool. And that is what I call my friction audit. You want to be able to find where's the friction. Friction for you, friction for your team, but really important, where's the friction for your clients? Where's the friction in you delivering your message? And identify those areas of friction and find the solution. And then once you have the solution, you systematize it. Gaps. This is where there's something missing. A bridge needs to be built. Something needs to fill in a gap, because if you don't identify and systematize those gaps, what happens? You are the one who is responsible for holding all of those gaps together. And that becomes massive fatigue for founders. And then bottlenecks. Where is your system or your process for your clients getting jammed up? Where are things not flowing? Where does the process stop? This is one of those really important things that a system, once identified, can resolve. And so what I believe we need to be thinking about when we're talking about conscious wealth creation and consciously building out for Earth Day is, are we just going to evolve haphazardly, or are we going to create a conscious design on how we're going to build that wealth, how we're going to build out that mission, that vision, so we live our lives instead of being trapped in somebody else's system? Because don't think that for any second that you're not living in a system right now that was created by somebody else, by somebody else's rules, by somebody else's game. We're in an incredible moment of time where we can seize back that power. And when we have that power and we build it consciously, with intention, with purpose and passion, that's when we create peace and prosperity. That's the vision that I have for my business. So I'm curious, what's the vision for your business? And are you just have a big box of tools that you're constantly bringing out to solve every problem? Or are you going to root cause analysis and finding out how to take your vision, your mission, your purpose, and make it flow like the river it should? I want you to think about this, because everything that Hannah said, I believe, is what us humans are being called forward. And we are living in a time right now where we know we are creating history. We know we're in massive change. We know that we need to take responsibility. And so if you need any help designing or even just identifying where your friction, your gaps, or your bottlenecks are, reach out to me. I would love to help you. I believe in the power of businesses being in the hands of the many instead of the few. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I wish that you had a mega microphone that the entire world could have heard what you just shared. But this is a start, right? So thank you for sharing and being a part of today's summit. And as she mentioned, you can connect with her. Do you want to share quickly how they can connect with you or where to find you?
Absolutely. KathyBaldwin.me, and Kathy with a K. Everything I do lives under my own brand, just like I believe it should be for you.
All right. Thank you, Miss Kathy. So, next up, we have another phenomenal woman that I'm excited to bring to the stage today. Her name is Hannah Darby, and she is going to talk to us about conscious wealth begins within and healing the invisible blocks that impact income. And a little about Hannah. Hannah is an award-winning holistic healer and global best-selling author who guides individuals through grief and healing using her heal method, blending science, spirituality, and deep personal experience. She absolutely helps clients find peace, alignment, and transformation. And we are honored to have her here today on the virtual stage. So please help me welcome Hannah Darby.
Hi everyone, it is so lovely to be here with you all today, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, Hannah. So there's a conversation missing from the wealth space. We talk about strategy, we talk about scaling, and we talk about impact. But we rarely talk about the one thing that silently shapes all of it, and that is your unhealed grief. Because whether we realize it or not, the way we earn, receive, hold, and grow wealth is deeply influenced by what we've experienced, what we've lost, and what we've internalized. And for many people, grief isn't just about losing a person. It could be the loss of identity, the loss of safety. And as we're here on Earth Day, it could be the loss of the environmental climate security due to the climate emergency. It could be the loss of who you thought you were going to be. But before I go deeper into this, let me just briefly introduce myself. So my name is Hannah Darby, and as Hannah said, I'm a holistic healer and certified grief guide. And I founded my business, Healing with Hannah. And I specialize in helping individuals navigate grief and emotional pain. Grief is something that we all experience at some point in our lives. Unfortunately, that's inevitable. But not by bypassing it, but we need to work with it so that we can rebuild our lives, rebuild our identity, and the way that we lead and create. And I support people to move from survival into aligned, sustainable living, where the healing becomes the foundation for our impact. And this work is deeply personal to me. It isn't just something that I've studied. It's something that I have lived. Grief altered my world at a very young age. It changed how I saw myself, how I showed up in the world, and how safe I felt in my life. And like many women, I didn't realize how much that was shaping all of my decisions. How I held back, how I constantly questioned myself, how I stayed small in moments where I was meant to expand. It wasn't a lack of ambition. It was unprocessed emotion sitting beneath the surface. And here's what I see now in my work. Is that women don't struggle to create wealth because they're incapable, but they struggle because they're carrying invisible weight. Unprocessed grief can show up in so many different ways. It could look like undervaluing your work, overgiving or undercharging. I think we've all been guilty of that before. A fear of being seen or a fear of being judged when we show up as our true, authentic selves. Burnout from trying to prove our worth all of the time. And just generally holding yourself back just before expansion. And no amount of strategy fixes this. Because you can't sustainably build wealth on a nervous system that doesn't feel safe to hold it. There's another layer to this conversation that is something deeply important to me and especially important to acknowledge today. And that is the collective grief from climate grief. A form of grief that often goes unnamed, but is deeply felt. It's the sadness, the fear, the anger, and sometimes the helplessness that comes from witnessing changes to our planet, the loss of ecosystems, the uncertainty of the future, and the weight of knowing what's at stake. And for many women, especially those who are deeply empathic, intuitive, and connected to the natural world, this isn't something that we can just switch off. It is constantly there, living in the background, quietly influencing how safe the future feels, how much that we allow ourselves to expand, and even how we relate to building wealth in a world that can feel so uncertain and unstable. Sometimes it shows up as hesitation, as questioning, whether success or growth is even aligned, or as a deeper emotional fatigue that sits heavy on your shoulders and that's hard to explain. But this isn't weakness. This is awareness. And this is care. And this is exactly why conscious wealth matters so much. Because when we acknowledge climate grief rather than suppress it, we create space to build our world differently, more intentionally, more sustainably, and more in alignment with the world that we actually want to live in. Climate grief doesn't mean you stop building. It means that you build in a way that honors both our humanity and the future that we want to be a part of. But here's the shift. Grief isn't the thing that blocks your wealth. It's the doorway to it. Because your grief holds your depth, your empathy, your purpose, and your ability to lead with humanity. And when you learn to work with your grief instead of fighting against it, you stop building from fear and you start building from truth. And this is where conscious wealth is born. Not from pushing harder, but from aligning deeper. And this is exactly why I created my HEAL method. Because healing isn't just emotional. It's the foundation of how we build ourselves, our businesses, our families, our homes. It's the foundation to how we lead, earn, and impact. So what does this stand for? H is healing our relational wounds. It's the way we relate to others, the way we relate to ourselves, the way we relate to money, success, visibility, and all of these things often mirror our past experiences. E is expressing our pain and anger, expressing all of that suppressed emotion that grief has bottled inside of you. Because what we don't process, we carry. And that shows up in every aspect of our lives, our businesses. A is learning to accept a new reality, letting go of who you thought you had to be, so you can step into who you are becoming. And L is learning to live, love, and lead again. From a place of true alignment, wholeness, and grounded confidence. And when this work happens, women don't just heal. We raise our standards. We value our own worth. We build aligned businesses that can weather any storm. And we create impact that actually feels good to sustain. And this is where it connects to something bigger. Because when we build from wealth, from a healed, conscious place, we don't just create income. We create ethical businesses. We create sustainable impact. We create heart-led leadership. And this has a massive ripple effect that benefits people, communities, and the planet. Because conscious capital isn't just about what you build. It's about who you are whilst you build it. So if you take one thing from today, let it be this. You don't need to disconnect from your grief to be successful. You don't need to get over it to create wealth. Your depth is not a weakness. It is your advantage. It's your superpower. Because when you truly allow yourself to heal, you don't just change your life. You change the entire way that wealth is created in our world. And if this resonates, I invite you to start a different kind of conversation around your healing and your growth. Because the most powerful businesses are built by people who are no longer afraid to feel. Thank you.
Wow. Incredible. You had my attention on so many things. I think you made a new word. Climate grief. What does that look like? I don't know, but I know what it looks like, but I feel like that was something that could so be another level for you to go deeper on, Hannah. And I hope you do, because everything that you shared has everything to do with Earth Day, with conscious wealth building, everything in between. So thank you for sharing some of your expertise today. How can people connect with you, Hannah?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really hope that it's touched you. You can connect with me, visit my website, which is www.healingwithhannah.co.uk, and all of my contact information is there.
Thank you. So one of the things that we do during these live virtual summits is we like to open up Q&A time. And so if my amazing back end staff can help by bringing the ladies up to the stage, or I'm going to ask some questions to each of the ladies, and we're going to do a small little roundtable panel discussion. And then we will kick into our next speaker. So this is a question for all of you today who are speaking. If, and this is a long question, if capital is one of the most powerful forces shaping our planet, what responsibility do we have as leaders to ensure that the wealth that we build and the money we move is not only profitable, but regenerative? And what does that look like in real action, not just intention?
Hannah, I would like to answer that, if that's okay.
Sure.
I believe capital is our ability to hold ourselves and our ability to lead ourselves in this world. You touched on so many important points today about us being in our power, and that's what is required in order for this world to shift into the next version of wealth consciousness, earth consciousness, and in order for us as women to shift into the next level of building businesses and building growth. So when we don't hold the capital of us being the capital that needs to shift, then we are the movement that creates micro movements and creates macro movements in the world. So I believe it's our ability to hold ourselves in this world, because we are the first change makers. And from us, the change becomes the ripple effect in the world.
Okay. Thank you. So the question that I'm asking is, if capital was the most powerful force shaping our planet, what responsibility do we have as leaders to ensure that wealth we build and the money we move is not just profitable, but it's regenerative? And what does that look like in real action, not intention? So I'm going to go to Megan.
Yeah, so this whole discussion is amazing. And I think a key thing that comes to mind is when we get the capital, when we get the profitability that we say we want, again, action, what do we do with it? My hope is that we turn around and inject it into each other, which I know is very aligned with so many things that is currently happening within She Rises in terms of women actually injecting into women, buying each other's services, supporting generations both up, down, and across the whole scale. So for me, it looks like on a more practical business sense, when you have profit, do you have line items for that in it, in a budget? Is there a real plan where you're putting a real percentage back into the world in any capacity outside of just moving the needle for your own business plan? And what does that look like?
Thank you. Sherelle, how does it become regenerative and not just intention, but it's regenerative and it's action? What does that look like?
I've been with an organization for almost 30 years that I think most people would have thought would fall apart in the first year. And the gentleman who created this organization had an image of it growing. And as it grew, it would become this large space to let places, other people create something like this event. Sorry, we have odd sounds here. Do it in their space to have knowledge from what was done in the core, how the core has lifted itself up. It's a conference, so we're talking 100 people to 35,000 people. And always opening up space for new places, new ways that want to come forward as a smaller conference. And that's just been part of his process. And watching that expand and grow while he holds his business tight. It's his baby. And yet supporting so many others around the world to create their version of it. It's been an amazing thing to watch. And I do use a lot of what I've learned from him when I'm working with my own businesses and my own clients.
Thank you. So my next question, I'm going to shoot it straight to Hannah. Where do you believe, Hannah, that we are still funding harm, knowingly or unknowingly? And what are we each willing to change right now to align our money with the future of this planet?
I think true change doesn't come from one person doing something perfectly. It comes from all of us doing lots of small, little imperfect actions to try and create a difference. It's about owning up and seeing and thinking about the effect of what the way you run your business, the products that you use, the food that you buy, the way you live your life, and the effect that that has on the planet, but not in a way to kind of make yourself feel worse, but just in a way to open your eyes and think, is there a way that I could be doing this better? Is there a different way that I could be living my life? Is there another way that I could be running my business? And it's about, you know, we're all leaders, and it's all about creating that legacy and leaving the world in a better place than we found it.
Okay, thank you. I'll take this one to Shannon. So, how do we move from performative sustainability to profitable sustainability, and what roles or what role does conscious capital play in building a future where both people and the planet can thrive together?
Okay, you guys have some great in-depth questions. I think we have to get back to communicating, back to knowing what the earth is asking for, what it needs. We have to understand it better, which means our education system has to shift and evolve with us to see, as the population rises, where we're taking away from things, what we can be giving back simultaneously. You know, we take down a tree in 5 seconds, but it takes 5 years for that tree to build up to a fraction of where we took it. So educating, starting at children. Most kids today, they don't know where their banana comes from if it isn't in the grocery store. You know, like, we have to just get back to our roots, back to where we came from. And on the second part of your question, can you say that for me again? I'm sorry.
So, what role does conscious capital play in building a future where both people and the planet can thrive together?
Really, I think everybody should connect themselves to their environment and their community more frequently, to really know what that community needs to thrive. You know, there was never supposed to be this us versus the other. It's supposed to be us versus the issue, so that we can all work together and thrive in cooperation and connection. So I think it always, in all ways, comes back to understanding and really knowing what we need to do, and then working it out as a plan together, so everybody acts as one.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, Kathy, what is one decision every person in this room can make today, financially or professionally, that would immediately shift us all toward a more sustainable and equitable future?
We talk about ROI for businesses, but it ends there. What if every ROI that we received became a responsibility of what we give back? And I think of so many initiatives and so many things that we could do. For example, I've seen technology that puts a electricity creation in our roads. By when the cars drive over, it creates electricity. And so if we were all able to take one part of the ROI that we give and not make it stagnant and stay with us and just build up in a bank account, but put it back into our world with equal or greater responsibility to what we received, I think that's how we do it.
Thank you. All right, Doris, Dr. Doris Bell. What legacy are you personally building the way you create and use wealth today?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I would love to first confirm what the other speakers said, that you can't do everything alone, but yes, you can, as a person, you can do a lot. So many of us women are also mothers, like I am. So I always tried, and I still do so, to be a good role model. Also in conscious purchase, for example, yeah. So the purchase of, let's say, daily things, but also like textiles, your clothes, yeah. So I would not necessarily buy from big brands, multi-million-dollar brands, but maybe from a store, a smaller one, which is from a female trader. Yeah, so you can do a lot, vary in your own region, and to build legacy. Coming to this part of your question, that's what I do. My mission is to teach people that they first of all care for themselves, and not money wise. Yeah, of course, this is also important, but don't look at the outside things that you can get, but use your money also to have it good, so to enjoy life. And that's what I also teach my son and the younger generation, that if we enjoy life and also see all these little miracles in life, in wildlife, in our environment, in nature, it's so much that we can get out of it. So it can be much more rewarding having a walk in the nature than buying the 10th expensive t-shirt or so. So putting that into a balance, what real pleasure and real satisfaction can mean if we connect closer back to nature.
Well, thank you, ladies, for answering these questions. I think each answer and each share today that we've heard so far, it closes the circle of the whole point of today's summit. So without further ado, if Lisa, if you can get us rolling for our second part of today's summit. So our next guest speaker for today is also not a stranger to the stage. She is going to talk to us about not having to choose between wealth and impact. Her name is Megan Dirks. She is a serial entrepreneur and visibility strategist known for helping women turn their stories into income, impact, and powerful positioning. She is the visionary behind The Girl on the Left, a global movement empowering women to be seen beyond the polished ending. So please help me welcome Megan Dirks.
Hello, hello, and thank you for the lovely intro, Hannah. I love already the discussions that are happening here, and Q&A is awesome. So I want to also switch things up a little bit, and I want to open with sustainable wealth isn't just money that lasts necessarily. And I want to pull a little bit from the dictionary, even though we don't own a lot of physical copies of those anymore. We define wealth as an abundance of valuable possessions or money. And it also defines it as a plentiful supply of something desirable. So I think that's really interesting, because I think in a lot of women's spaces, especially right now, the conversation is very scarcity driven around money in regards to wealth. So let's talk definitions a little more. Abundance means more than enough, right? We aren't just scraping, we aren't just surviving, we are cliche and beyond into thriving, and we're very filled and fulfilled and lit up with all of the things. And here's where it opens up a little more differently for me, is a more complete definition of wealth, I feel, in modern times, where we care more about preventative health and building it up at the same time, is, again, a plentiful supply of a valuable resource, not just meaning money exclusively. It means anything of worth. And that conversation could look really different for anybody here. Obviously, money is a really important tool. And at the same time, there's wealth in how we're using our time, in how we're using our energy. I know today there are conversations around return on investment, and in some of our previous rooms, we also speak on return of energy as well. And what does that look like? So what does wealth look like in health and relationships if we pour into those, and knowledge and opportunities and all these other things that, as we bother to up-level them, ultimately create more income and more wealth across the board in all areas. So my fun conversation lately has been expanding wealth beyond money and stretching that definition a little bit and challenging it just a bit with women. So we make sure that we're using the full correct one and including all of the things in life that we want to feel wealthy in. And naturally, everything rises up together. So the real question that becomes, what are we valuing beyond just money? Something valuable, something desirable, more time with your loved ones, more time to focus on your health, less tense relationships, more calls that light you up to show up to, whatever that looks like. And I want to pause for a moment as well, because I spend a lot of time in branding circles with peers that are looking at businesses and helping build brands. And recently, within this last week, for 2026, we saw some interesting discussions come up around that. And it doesn't cut it anymore for a brand to just say they're sustainable or they're eco-friendly or any of the kind of trendy words that get paired with Earth Day. That was a very 5 or 10 year ago thing to do in marketing, to make sure that everything was natural, eco-friendly, the list goes on. But now we look at it and we almost laugh. We're like, that's a very low bar. Do better. What else? That doesn't cut it to slap a sticker on things and say that you did your part. So it's been a really interesting conversation to see that shift and to see humans, the humans on the planet, our clients, our peers, our customers, consumers, whatever, actually say they want transparency more, and that they want more than the pretty words, especially on Earth Day. And something we've been seeing as well is a bit of the buck in the trend of just posting for Earth Day just to say we acknowledged it. It's being viewed as very performative, and people, again, want more. So this kind of leads us down the trail of, if this is true, that wealth isn't just financial, it's energetic, it's physical, it's relational, and it's visible. On Earth Day, we talk a lot about sustainability and protecting resources, using them actually responsibly, and not over extracting more than what we need. And I feel as women, we don't tend to do that as much. Once we actually have what we need, we feel pretty good about that. A lot of us just want to get to the point where we have what makes us feel comfortable. And naturally, a lot of us don't tend to lead into greed, which I think is a really common misconception with wealth discussions, is that everybody will turn into the money monster and keep going and keep going and keep going, which is great if you're doing it responsibly. But I know many women that just want to be okay and feel safe and feel stable and wouldn't push it much further than that, and they would be very happy. So most people are only applying these conversations around Earth Day a lot of the time to the planet. And I love that we're opening up the discussion to have it center more around our own lives and what that actually looks like. So the talk kind of about reframing sustainability into regeneration, I think, is really important, Because if wealth, again, is an abundance of what's valuable, then sustained wealth is about how that abundance is created, how it's held, and also how it's used in service, which brings me back to what I mentioned in the Q&A in terms of the action. What are you doing actionably in service back? Is that being blocked out in any meetings, on any calendars, in any budgets? What does that look like? And this is where we're really seeing a lot of the conversation evolve, I feel, from sustainability to actual regeneration. So it's moving away from the baseline, which was always don't do harm. Let's not try to harm the planet. Let's not make things worse, because the conversation has very much been over the years that humans kind of maybe aren't the best for the planet, and we take a lot more than we give. So actively shifting that into working and restoring, contributing, and actually giving back is a very exciting new conversation to have. As it was mentioned earlier, it takes 5 seconds to cut down a tree, and how many years to grow that back? So I would hope we're kind of doubling down on what we're giving back, because it does take a lot longer to build it. And all of this said, there's just a lot of interesting conversations where we know there's parts that we don't talk about enough. We know as humans, as women, we can't build sustainably from a dysregulated system. Many of us know that. Many of us have credentials in that, certifications in that, do breath work, do all the things. And you cannot create long-term impact from unprocessed burnout. So healing isn't separate from wealth in the slightest in my book. And I know many here that would agree. Healing is how wealth actually becomes sustainable. All the systems we talk about building, all the projects and ambitions that we have, we don't need to shrink them down, but we need to up-level ourselves in a way that we can actually step into them. So I find it really neat that right now there's a big focus on how you make decisions from clarity instead of survival. And we as women have been in a lot of survival-based scenarios traditionally, but we do make up half the population or more. So imagine what it looks like to have us all healed, to have us all knowing how to avoid burnout before it hits, to have us all navigating the world with a much greater, healthier capacity. And what impact does that make on each other, or on our communities, or on the planet as a ripple effect in general, when over half of us are up-leveling on that level? So setting boundaries, obviously, to protect your energy. Stop the overgiving, like Hannah mentioned earlier, just to be chosen, and start building from wholeness instead of just trying to keep up with the machine that you've built for yourself or that you are doing and executing on someone else's behalf. Because realistically, when you heal, you stop leaking your resources. And that consciousness that we're talking about today comes in here really strong. And if we're being honest, a lot of our own brands and businesses wouldn't pass the Earth Day test. And it is still a pretty low bar, where we need more leadership actually living healthily and actually demonstrating that and going about the world in the day at the grocery store and for our children and for generations before us that didn't get to learn that way. So my question that I'm asking now is, are you actually living in a regenerative, healthy way? Or are you just kind of operating as less harmful? And I'll be the first to say, I have dysregulated days, and they impact my capacity, and they impact my wealth, and they impact my income generating ability, and they impact my relationships. And that's true for all of us. None of us have ascended to a level of bulletproofing that 100%, because that's no longer a human experience. So what I think we can say is that we value balance, we value integrity, and we value community. And if we ourselves are operating as our best selves, the action does happen and the whole planet does up level. But if you or your business are built on burnout behind the scenes, people can feel that every day. And it's not what you say, it's not what your business model proves, it's not even really the wealth of the revenue you're bringing in. It's the wealth of all of it that I hope we continue to have a discussion about. So if we really, really zoom it out, and there are so many more things we could say around this, and I know we have amazing speakers coming up that will hit on the rest of it. But when we zoom it out, it is really the question of what happens when women become truly resourced. And I say that as a young woman that grew up under-resourced, with a mother who was under-resourced, and an aunt that was under-resourced, and the chain keeps going generationally. So my goal personally in how I live and operate professionally and personally is to break as many cycles as possible, not shrink my ambitions, but constantly up-level myself in a way that I am actively creating wealth for myself, my family, my community, everybody I love, everybody I find that I think has a fantastic idea, and ultimately by some ripple effect, hopefully the whole planet. But what level of kindness becomes possible when we step into health on all levels and wealth on all levels? And what level of emotional intelligence enters leadership? And what level of resourcefulness or collaboration and long-term thinking actually emerges for us all? So ultimately, we shape the culture, and we'll raise it differently. We'll lead the planet differently. We'll invest differently. We'll definitely communicate differently. And when enough women do that, we're not going to just change industries. We're going to change the whole systems that we speak of. And that is really what I want to leave you with today, because there's so many amazing places that we could go with this. You are muted, beautiful.
When you were talking about sustainability, like sustained wealth, to me, sustained wealth that lasts is it so many different things, but a couple that stand out to me is it creates an impact without depleting who we are as an individual. And it also creates resources and integrity to match the impact that we set out. And so sustained wealth is deeper than, like what you were saying, it's deeper than money. And I think sometimes we forget that. I think a lot of times we do. But if you look up the word sustained, it has so many different directions that you can take it, but the outcome still kind of is the same: impact, integrity, resource. All those things are things that are required to be able to sustain our wealth, to sustain our health, and all of the other things that you spoke about and some of the other ladies. So thank you for pointing that out.
Thanks for letting me be here today.
Okay, so how can people connect with you? Oh, we lost her.
They
How can
can't.
How can
I
everyone?
don't want to talk to anybody. But seriously, you can very easily find me as Megan Dirks on LinkedIn at megandirks.com, any social channel. I sync most of my things together. So if you find me somewhere, you'll find me everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have another powerhouse who is going to talk about the mycellular economy, how women are restoring the oldest wealth network on earth. Her name is Sherelle Morris. She is a transformational artist, ordained minister, 21st century shaman with over 50 years of shamanic practice. She is the founder of Stone Circle Productions. She is the creator of Energetic Economy Framework, bridging ancient elemental wisdom with modern quantum principles to help women entrepreneurs access the invisible 90% of their business power. So please help me welcome Sherelle Morris.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you. I'm so grateful the way this is lined up because I love hearing her talk. And she's talking very closely to what I want to bring into the world. Yes, mycelia. It's a crazy word. There's another title for it, and we'll get to that as we're talking. I feel like all of us want to do all these things, and all of us want to save the world, but we very seldom go back into our history where we lived on the earth, like in a different way than we say, oh, we live on the earth now. Yeah, we do. In a house with a rug and a car and all these things. But we're going to start a bit differently today. I want to start by taking you underground. Not a metaphorical way, but actually underground. More like a journey. Beneath every ancient forest on earth, beneath the roots, beneath the soil, in the deep, dark space where nothing visible is happening, there is a network that has been running continuously for 400 million years. And some scientists are saying, no, it's more like 5 million. It does not have a CEO. There's no quarterly earnings call. There's no growth strategy. And it has never once needed a bailout. Science calls the mycelia network. You may have heard it called the Wood Wide Web, which is so much easier to pronounce. It is a web of fungal threads that are so fine in a single teaspoon of healthy forest soil contains enough mycelia thread to stretch for miles. What does it do? It does what it's always done. And this is where I think women in business come in. It shares, it communicates, it routes resources toward whatever they need most. When one part of the network is under stress, the rest of the network responds. When one node, that's a human in my collection here, when one node discovers something new, that intelligence travels. When a tree has more than it needs, the surplus moves through the network to the trees that are struggling. It's not from generosity. It's from structural wisdom. The network has learned over those hundreds of millions of years that a system with dying nodes is a weaker system for everyone. The network has learned this, and we need to learn it as well. So I want you to hold that image, that under the ground luminous image. And remember, in this underground network, the feeding of the nodes, the routine intelligence in every direction, getting stronger under stress instead of weaker. And I want to ask you a question. Does that remind you of anything? Because it reminds me of every sacred or shamanic circle of women I have ever been part of. The knowledge is passed without hoarding. The resource share without transactions. The women who held the space when another couldn't. The wisdom that traveled through the circle and made every person stronger. That is our original operating system. In this talk, when I'm saying our, I'm talking about women. Women 40, 50, 60,000 years ago. And as we came into this world in the last 100 or so years, many of you much less than that, I'm getting close to that, we walked into a world where that system had been turned off. When I began my career in Hollywood as an audio tech, I joined the union because that's what you have to do. There were 4 women and 2,000 men. Now, I did that for 20 years, but that noise became really crazy. And somewhere in the midst of it, I found shamanic practices. It's a way of listening that never stops teaching. And over the 50 years, I have not arrived each day with a book under my arm, but I have simply been listening long enough to know how much I'm still hearing that voice and walking a path that opens up. Every year I understand more, and every year there's more to understand. It's 2 different worlds I lived in for quite a while, but they taught me the same thing. The most powerful intelligence in any room is not the loudest one. It is the one that knows how to listen to the whole field. Back in the day with your original entrepreneurs who were running commerce about 300,000 years ago, long before anyone invented a spreadsheet. But they were masterful. They understood how to separate their business intelligence and their relational intelligence and their energetic intelligence. And they could read the seasons. And that was their business strategy. Knowing when to plant, when to harvest, when to trade, when to rest. That was the original business plan. It's a plan we could return to. But woven through all of it, there was an invisible fabric of trust that held their communities together. And it is the communities that we need. There was a point in history where we apparently decided to operate business differently. Everything was soft, maybe intuitive, unscientific. And in that time, we lost about 90% of our available energy. It was written off the books. In that time, we ended up in a result of rational economy. Now, here is the part of the story that I think we need to say out loud and hold it up strongly, because it is true. and we don't talk about it enough. When women began entering business in a significant number, late 1800s, 1900s, certainly in the last 50 years, we walked into a system that was built entirely on different rules. Back that 40 or 50,000 years, women were much stronger in their community, often running the community. It was a matriarchal world for about 40,000 years. But when we came into this business, there were very different rules. There were competitive rules, scarcity rules, every person for themselves rules. And for many of us, understandably, reasonably, given what survival in that environment required, learned to play by those rules. We kept our heads down. We protected our territory. We were careful about who we helped, careful about who we trusted, careful about appearing too collaborative in an environment that read collaboration as a weakness. And sometimes, and this is the hard part, we turned away from other women in our industries, not from cruelty, but from the programming of a system that told us that there was only room for one, only one seat at that table, only one woman who got to be taken seriously in that room. So we competed for the seat and the contract and the credibility. And we could hardly hear the mycelia network anymore. Now, having been in Hollywood, I have watched a lot, been in a lot of boardrooms, at conferences, and recently at online communities where women who should be each other's greatest ally are instead treating each other as a threat. And I want to be very clear, that is not the nature we came on this earth with. That was an adaptation to a foreign operating system, and it's probably time to get rid of it. The mycelia economy is what happens when women put that 90% back into the books. When we remember consciously, deliberately, as a practice, that the women in your industry is not your competition. They are your network. The model we adapted was what we refer to as monocultural. There was one tree, one type of root system, and competing for the same patch of soil. Monoculturals are very fragile. They will collapse under stress. They have no distribution intelligence, no reperceptible support, no capacity to root around damage because every node there is isolated from every other. The mycelia model is a diverse ecosystem. There's so many trees and so many roots, all connected, all stronger because of the difference between them. When you support another woman in your space, when you refer her, amplify her, celebrate her success, tell your community about her work, you're not being naive about competition. You're restoring your network. You're choosing the ecosystem over the monocultural. And the truth is, the ecosystem always wins. So here's what it looks like in this practice. This is what I teach. It looks like you're building trust before you need it, so that when you need it, it's already there. It looks like measuring network health, the strength of your connection, the flow of resources through your community, the resilience of the whole, alongside the revenue. It looks like understanding that your rise and her rise are not in competition. The network expands when we bring each other up. It contracts when we don't. It looks like conscious capital, not just when your money goes in, but when the energy it carries and what network is fed and what kind of world it is quietly building, one transaction at a time. I think this is what Sheconomy is all about. And on this Earth Day, as women in business are building businesses and networks and platforms and communities at a scale that has never existed before in human history, it is not emerging. Our world is returning. Before I close, I want to give you something to do. I kept trying to figure out how to phrase that, but I want you to do this. It's not complicated, but it is for today. Today, not someday, but today. Identify one node in your network, one other woman in your network that is under stress, a colleague in a hard season, a collaborator who's gone quiet, a woman in your community who is doing extraordinary work, but not enough people know about it. And here is the added addition to this. If it's possible, and I think it is for all of us, make it a woman in your own industry. The one you might have been trained way back as competition. And send one mycelia signal. Those signals are a referral, a share, a message that says, I see you and what you are building matters. No transactions, no asking, no expectations of immediate return, just a thread laid with intention into the network that feeds you. Because here is what the forest has known for 100 million years. The network that you strengthen today is the network that sustains you tomorrow. The wealth that flows through the mycelian economy does not accumulate at one node. It moves, it circulates, it finds its highest use, and always, always comes back around. You are not separated from this network. You are one of the threads it is made of. Go be, a mycelia. Thank you.
Wow. Sherelle, every
Yes?
time I hear you, I feel like I need like 10 notebooks or 10 gadgets to take all the notes of every nugget of wisdom that you drop. Thank you so much for explaining it in such a way that we can all understand that big word and just all the incredible work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really extraordinary to see all of the different things that you're doing and just your growth and your vision for everyone. So thank you. And Sherelle, how can anyone connect with you?
The easiest way is to reach out, and I will take names or numbers. I think are we collecting names and numbers? Because I would like to send out something, if that is possible.
Yes,
I've been working with the elements. That's a big deal in my world, and I've been creating mantras for them. So I want to send a special mantra for Earth Day to everyone here. And with that, you'll have information on me, because I'd love to talk. If something I said you're kind of recognizing something in there about yourself and what you may want to do, I would love to have a conversation with you.
awesome. Thank you, Sherelle.
Thank you.
All right, let's continue this extraordinary day. Next up, we have another extraordinary woman who is actively changing the very thing that we're discussing today. So the power perspective pathway. Activate your superpower. Enlighten the F up. I love that. Shannon Perea is joining us today on stage. She is a transformation coach and a mushroom consciousness speaker, helping individuals heal and evolve through plant medicine and embodied practices, blending spirituality with personal empowerment. So please welcome to the She Rises Studio stage, Miss Shannon Perea.
Pereira, close enough. You did well. Amazing. So I think it is so serendipitous that Miss Sherelle was just speaking about the mycelium network. So I am like a mushroom. I just am. It happened. And I just thought how incredible to get to come right off of that. So thank you, Sherelle, and thank you all the gorgeous speakers here. So I wanted to start just by saying hello, She Rises, Phoenix TV, and She Economy community. I'd love to start by grounding us and just connecting us with the breath. So in a moment, together, I invite you to take a deep and nourishing, earth-connecting breath in through the nose. We'll hold for 3, and then we'll exhale in a sigh, release through an opened mouth. All right, in 3, 2, 1, inhaling, hold, and release, sigh out. Sometimes we just need that. All right, wonderful. Now, depending on where you are on the earth and what's happening there, you just breathed in anywhere from 1 to 100 fungal spores. Actually, you've been breathing in fungal spores your whole life. Derived from Latin, the word inspire means to breathe life into. And from the first breath that you ever took to the last breath that you will ever take, you are quite literally and enigmatically inspired by fungi. So why do I share that? Well, by the end of this talk, I hope you'll learn a couple of things that may encourage you to appreciate fungi more, if you don't already, but also to understand that we can build the foundations of wealth, sustainability, and higher consciousness with a shift of mindset and perspective. Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm a microdosing coach and medicinal mushroom coach, Power Perspective coach, and I'm sharing some fun fungi facts with you today, our Earth Day Wealth and Conscious Summit, metaphorically, as well as nature in her divine intelligence always shows us as above, so below, and I hope to implement that. So now, in case you're not a huge mushroom nerd like me and Sherelle, it sounds like, fungus is in one form or another on about 90% of the planet. And it's not just in every forest, it's under the oceans, it's in the Sahara Desert, it's in the Arctic tundra, and as you just learned, in the air we breathe. They work in the dark, intuitively, hungrily, knowing the most efficient pathways to reach their endless synapses. They have backup plans, they have fail-safes, they have strategy, they have community, and they have cooperation. and the value of what we can learn from the consciousness of fungi to support our day-to-day lives in community, in business, in healing the planet, and in healing ourselves is truly immeasurable. Now, in my upcoming book, The Power Perspectives Pathway, I highlight 7 paradigm-shifting principles to help readers activate their superpower and enlighten the F up. Pardon the swear word there. It's part of the authentic impact. I blame the book. But this means tuning in, tapping in, turning on to your true abundance, your divine consciousness, and allowing what's yours to come to you with ease, with grace. So not with hustle, not with grind, but with activating your superpower. So what is your superpower? Now, through a slurry, a cocktail, a whimsical whirlwind of life experiences that I've had, and I'm sure most people have whimsical life experiences, but I've worked in hospitality and in working in corporate sales, in being a psychedelic wellness practitioner, in living in ashrams, living in a van, not having an address for 4 years, sitting with penniless gurus and interviewing multi-millionaire entrepreneurs. I've learned that our ability to shift and evolve our perspective is our superpower. So, what does that mean? Let's get started on activating this superpower with a little exercise. So just right now, facing your computer, I want for you to, with your little finger, draw the number 6 in front of your screen, in front of yourself. And marvel at your invisibly hand-drawn number 6. Now, imagine I'm sitting across from you. What number am I going to see? What number will you have seen if I've drawn a 6? Right. So I'm going to see a 9 if you've drawn me a 6. Now, what happens in a lot of the world, in a lot of our conversations, is we're more concerned with who's right and who's wrong rather than what the overall perspective is. So we could fight about, no, this is a 6. I drew a 6. Nah, from over here, I can see a 9. That's a 9. It's a solid 9. I can see it. You can't change my mind. But if we collectively and compassionately choose to zoom out a little, we can see both. And we can see that when we think higher, we can elevate our consciousness and see multiple perspectives simultaneously. And we can agree to understand that we have different filters that encourage us to see through different viewpoints. And we have different proximities that shape our reality. Now, when we can shift our perspective, even just one fraction in the direction of more gratitude, more hope, more love, more kindness, even just using our imagination, we do several things to build the foundation of perseverance and harness this power of perspective. So one of the things we do is we flip on the reticular activating system of the brain. Now that aligns us to see what we're seeking and what's vibrating with those qualities, say with hope and gratitude of love. You can test this out with, let's say you're in the grocery store and you're looking for some mushrooms, a specific kind, say enoki mushrooms. You're scanning just for that, and everything that has a similar name, you might particularly see it, but you're going to zoom right in for the exact one that you want. Because you're looking for it, the reticular system turns on. You also do a training of your brain. This is known as neural pruning. So if you opt out of a perspective that no longer serves you, like thinking that you're look a certain way that you don't prefer, or putting yourself down, or just anything that is no longer aligned with where you say you want to go and who you say you want to be. You can start reprogramming these beliefs by opting to choose a different perspective. You literally in real time catch that perspective you no longer want and say, oh no, that's not who I want to be right now. And you prune it and you flip it over to what you do want. And the third is that we begin creating and experiencing the observer effect. Now, you may or may not be familiar with the observer effect, but you simultaneously can merge your desired future with the gracious present moment when you start to observe the reality that you do want as opposed to what you think you're seeing, and it can betray you. Now, we can create from one of the most powerful supercomputers on the planet, and that is your imagination. Einstein's philosophy was that imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Our perspectives don't just shape our reality, they create it, they shift it, And as the late, great Dr. Wayne Dwyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I believe it's not because the world magically rearranges itself, but because we do. And all you need is awareness, blended with intention, discernment, and a few other magical tools that I'll get into. In life, I hope you know that you are the creator, you're the writer, you're the director, and you're the star of your own life's great production. And in every moment, you get to decide, do you want to be the victim or do you want to be the victor? Either choice is accepted immediately by source, by the universe, by the genie that says, so shall it be. But that means either choice can also be changed in just a moment. Imagine journeying down your path, feeling empowered with tools and resources that you, a bona fide superstar, could be greatly served with in order to be your most authentic, high vibrational self, going as far as you can see and knowing that when you get there, you'll see further. I want to share with you 3 of these 7 principles that help you imagine these tools for yourself and help you to create your own power perspectives pathway. I've applied these time and time again to harness the power of perspective and dramatically upgrade and enhance my life. Now, these principles can align you to a greater path with incredible side effects, including greater resilience in the face of adversity, embodying ancient wisdom to delve deep into the mysteries of the universe and self, and aligning your vibrational resonance to manifest more joy and peace. Now, these principles can work with anyone, with any place they are, but you must understand the fundamental element of this. And it uses the extreme rarity of the one thing that you have that no one else in the entirety of existence has: your perspective. No one can see the world through your eyes. No one can possibly experience reality the way that you do. No one can smell how you smell or feel what you feel or taste what you taste through your perception but you. And that makes you very special. That makes you absolutely invaluable to all that is. And all that is could not exist and would be incomplete without you and your unfathomable you-ness. So embodying the first of these 3 principles that I love is embodying big energy. And BIG is an acronym for balance, intention, and gratitude. Balance is so crucial to everything. We may think we want to be the #1 most positive, happiest person. No, you don't. You don't. Just the same as you don't want to be the most negative, bitter, sad person. We want to seek balance so that we don't have an attachment, and attachment causes suffering. And when we don't have attachments, we can be neutral and exercise optimism in every moment without being imbalanced. Intention is everything. Look around the room you're in. Nothing in that room exists without it being an intention somewhere. So if we want greater change, greater sustainability, greater wealth in every aspect of our lives, we must intend first. An intention, I call it the trailer of the movie of your life. And visualization and imagination projected to the reality we prefer are paramount to the foundations of harnessing your superpower. And lastly, in that acronym, gratitude. We all know the secret 101, but gratitude and just expressing gratitude for what you already have tells the universe to reflect more of that back to you. And genuine gratitude really activates a resonance in your body that is healing, that is loving, that is renewing. Now, the second of these principles is attune your vibrational resonance. Bashar, as channeled by Daryl Anka, says everything is energy and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So this quote dwells into quantum physics, the observer effect, collapsing the wave function of any potential of the physical to the particle, the reality that you prefer to be a match to. You can check out the double slit experiment if you want to get down that rabbit hole if you haven't already. But we were taught that if we first want to have a thing, if we first want to feel a way, we have to have a thing first. And we were taught incorrectly. You know, if we want money, cars, houses, dream jobs, a healthier planet, first we should feel as if we have that. That is vibrational resonance. And that is the physics that we're talking about, not just philosophy. In the quantum field, the universe, source energy, whatever you want to call it, doesn't respond to what we want. It responds to who we're being. Now, the last of those is help everyone everywhere all at once. And that sounds like a lot, but it's actually much easier than that. So it's a call to action. Do one good deed for yourself every day. And that's not just eat a pizza by yourself, like I've tried. I have an intimate relationship with pizza, but it's something that your future self would be happy about. The second call to action here of these 3 good deeds a day is helping everyone everywhere all at once is do a good deed for someone in your inner circle. Now, 100%, you're most likely already doing this, but the trick is with more conscious awareness, that reticular activating system is looking for how can I do something good for my best friend, for my lover, for my family, my mom, my daughter, my sister, anyone. But when you start to do it, that you activate reciprocity as a side effect. And you also really become more attuned to them and you gain a greater connection as a community. And the third is to do a good deed for a stranger. You don't have to buy someone coffee behind you at Starbucks. They have money to buy a coffee. It's more of an intention, like a smile, a compliment, a kind word. And these 3 together, I call them 3 good deeds a day, 3 GDs of getting a dose. When you do a kind act for someone, someone does a kind act for you, or you simply witness an act of kindness, all parties are hit with a powerful dose of dopamine or oxytocin, serotonin, or endorphins. And I challenge you to get your daily dose every day. So those are just 3 of the principles at a glance. And each time you find yourself stopping an old habit of unconstructive or self-criticism, catch yourself having a viewpoint that isn't aligned with your highest, loving, wealthiest, conscious vibration. I want you to reinforce that positive perspective shift when you catch yourself. That leads me to one last final call to action. I want you to anchor in that perspective shift by saying aloud to yourself, perspective shift, I love you. Sounds cheesy, but it's catchier as P.S. I love you. You're also gifting yourself with the affirmation that you are capable of transforming anything you put your mind, heart, and spirit into, wrapped up in a bow of self-love. So to shift and evolve your life is a journey, a process, and an endless evolution. When we evolve our communities and we evolve our planet. I believe there's no accident that we here, ladies, are together. We're hearing each other's words. And I'm grateful for each of you and for the She Rises, She Economy, and Phoenix TV. And I wish you all the love and encouragement possible to light your way down your power perspective path. P.S. I love you. Thank you.
I love P.S. I love you.
You just did it. Fantastic.
I mean, I love all of it, but wow, what a way to look at it. Thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. How can everyone connect with you?
Oh, amazing. So I'm on Instagram at Powered by Mushrooms Coaching, and there's a link in my profile to schedule. I do free coaching because a lot of people are like, oh, mushrooms, I don't want to do drugs, but they're not drugs. They're Mother Nature's medicine. And I just help people kind of understand what microdosing is. So free 30 minutes in a Calendly link there, or on Instagram at Powered by Mushrooms Coaching, or my website is almost done, poweredbymushrooms.love. Almost done.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shannon. And I think everything that you said ties into every ounce of what this summit is about. But I think the mushrooms come from Earth. They come from the planet. We could go on and on. You're like speaking my language. So thank you again. And please stay with us. We are going to open up a Q&A after we hear from our very last extraordinary woman of the hour. So thank you again, Shannon. And as we are moving along, my next extraordinary woman to step onto the She Rises virtual stage is going to talk to us about the new standard of wealth, why your business isn't growing even when you're doing everything right. Her name is Yulia Drummond, and Yulia is a business growth mentor and CEO of Global 7-Figure Brand, helping entrepreneurs build profitable, sustainable businesses without burning out by redefining leadership and wealth building strategies. So please welcome Yulia to the stage today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity for me to present. And today we are talking about Earth Day. It's about conscious building and the future of how we create wealth. And I think there is a deeper question underneath all of that. The question is, what kind of wealth are we actually building? Because it's one thing to grow a business, but it's another thing to build something that is sustainable, intentional, and doesn't come at the cost of your health, your relationships, or your life. And what I've seen in my own journey and in the founders I work with is this. A lot of businesses grow, but they are not built in a way that can actually be sustained, not externally and not internally. So I want you to visualize a little scenario. Most entrepreneurs I speak to, they don't have a strategy problem. They're working hard. They're doing the right things, but behind the scenes, it feels unstable. Revenue is inconsistent. They're second guessing their decisions, and they're trying to grow, but it feels heavier the more they do it. It's like the tree that's trying to break through the ground, the seed, but it's just not happening. And there's this consistent pressure. Why isn't this working at the level I know it should? And now imagine a different experience. You know exactly where your revenue is coming from. You have little seedlings here and there popping up in the ground, and they're turning into plants. You make decisions quickly and confidently. Your business is growing consistently. But more importantly, you are not overwhelmed by it. You are leading it. Your business grows without chaos and without burnout. And here's the thing, I've lived both sides of that. I've built a 7-figure global fashion brand from the ground up. And I've also experienced what it feels like to be burned out, struggling, and exhausted at the same time. Constant mental overload, pressure, and the stress that never turns off, burnout, and marriage. My marriage was on the brink of divorce. And I remember thinking, I know I'm doing it right, but why does it feel so hard? And I kept telling myself, I know I'm meant for more. Why isn't it working? And what I realized changed everything. I wasn't stuck because of strategy. I was stuck because of how I was operating. And when we talk about sustainability today, it is about regeneration. It is about regenerating how we lead, how we show up, and how we create a meaningful change in the world. You don't grow a business to the next level until you can operate at that next level as a leader. Because building a business is one thing, but becoming the leader who can sustain and lead that level of success is a completely different skill. And today, when I was dressing up, I wanted to wear green because it's Earth Day. But I said, you know what? I want to wear red because to me, red represents power, it represents strength. And until we become strong, powerful leaders within, we can't lead this planet into the good, sustainable future. So, what I do is I help entrepreneurs today grow consistent 6 and 7-figure business revenues. I help them build profitable businesses without chaos and burnout. And what I do is not just business growth. I help founders regenerate themselves as leaders so their business can grow in a way that is sustainable, that is stable, and that is scalable. We talk a lot about sustainability today on Earth Day, but true sustainability starts with the person building the business. You are the seed that will create the beautiful flowering plant or a tree. And I would like to share with you 4 earth-based pillars. And what we are going to do is we are going to root each pillar in something natural because it's Earth Day. And that's the work I do. I help my clients, help them regenerate those 4 pillars. And because unless they regenerate them, they cannot lead themselves, they cannot lead their family, they cannot lead their business. And 4 years ago, I gave birth to the most incredible boy in the world. And everything I do today is rooted in me creating the most amazing future for me, for myself, for him. And not only that, but it's also giving him the roots so that he can become the most incredible man in this world. Because what I give him will create that ripple effect in this world by what he will create with his life. And that's what has a deeper meaning for me. So I want to talk to you about these 4 earth-based pillars. Pillar number 1 is roots. It's your identity. It's who you are. Just like a tree can't grow beyond its roots, your business cannot grow beyond your identity. If your roots are shallow, you second guess yourself, you shrink, you repeat the same level, and your business isn't growing. So your business will never outgrow the identity it is rooted in. And that's what the first pillar is. It's the roots. It's that foundation. And if you're stuck in the same level, in that shallowness, your business cannot get to the next level. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your business is not limited by strategy. It's limited by the version of you that's running it. And let me make it a little clear for you and real. I want you to think about the next level you want in your life and in your business. More revenue, more visibility, more growth. And then ask yourself, what about that actually feels uncomfortable? Not the work, but who you have to become. Just one word. And that word comes up when you imagine stepping into the version of you. That one word, it's not random. That's the exact age you've been avoiding. And that's the first step. That's your identity. That's the roots. And at that age, it's what's been quietly limiting your growth. The second pillar is the soil. It's your capacity. It's your nervous system. It's what you can hold, and the soil determines what can actually be sustained. And too much growth in weak soil, what happens? The system collapses. You can't hold the pressure, the responsibility, the growth, and you will cap it. Growth is only sustainable when the ground beneath it can support it. So if your foundation is shaky, if your nervous system is not regulated, you cannot have a strong soil to build that foundation for strong business. So when you ask yourself, what am I holding well right now? But also ask yourself, where do I feel stretched, reactive, or overwhelmed? And that's where that edge is for you to take that leap. And the third one is the structure. It's that self-leadership, how you execute. This is the trunk. It's the part that holds everything up. It creates consistency, gives direction. And without structure, your energy is scattered. Your effort is inconsistent and results don't stabilize. Think of this trunk as sending energy to the whole tree. So what structures do you have in place that will allow the energy to go into the whole tree, in all the branches, in all the leaves, in all the blooms? And how you lead yourself when no one is watching. This is where most people fall apart. When they don't have the structure, growth doesn't stabilize, it swings. So the question I want to ask you is, if there is one decision you're trying to avoid, think about it. What is that decision? Where are you holding that back? And don't overthink it. You already know. There is one decision where you know you need to make a shift, but you're not doing it. And the longer you delay that decision, the longer your business stays exactly where it's at. And the fourth one is the flow. It's that self-trust. How you move. This is the flow of nutrients through the system. If that allows movement and speed and expansion, but then without self-trust, you hesitate, you delay, you block growth. And growth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from moving cleanly without hesitation. So when we bring it all together, we don't question the nature's process. The tree doesn't try to grow faster by forcing more branches. It strengthens its roots, its foundation, its ability to sustain growth, its ability to have that structure. But what do we do in our business? We do the opposite. We try to push more, we do more, we grow faster. But we do that without strengthening the system underneath it. And what happens? Nature was not designed to force and push and grow faster. Nature has its own equilibrium. So that's what it's important. It's important to achieve that equilibrium in our own business through roots, through the soil, through the structure, and through the flow. And when you have that, you will build those 6 and 7 figure businesses, because those are going to be the ones that are built in strong foundation, strong root system with the strong trunk where everything is in alignment and in flow. So today it's a very special day, and it comes back again to what impact are we creating in the world, but also what impact are we creating in the future of the planet, in the future of our business, in the future of our children and our future generations. So what I want to mention is, wealth is not what you build, but it's what you can sustain without breaking yourself in the process. And at the next level, your growth is not about learning more. It's about trusting yourself to move with strong roots, strong soil, strong structure, and strong flow. And when you have that, everything will be in alignment. Thank you.
Thank you, Yulia. How can people connect with you?
They can connect with me, my website, yuliadrummond.com, but also on my Instagram at Yulia Drummond. And I would love to set up a session with you if possible, because I believe that every single one of us has those hidden gems that we are not utilizing. And yuliadrummond.com, book your session with me, and we will be able to go through all those hidden things that are holding you back from building that strong system, that strong foundation.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I spoke too soon and moved our lineup for today, but we have one more incredible woman to welcome to our She Rises Studio stage today. And she is going to talk to us about biological literacy, the science behind sustainable success for women leaders. Her name is Dr. Doris Bell, and she is a biologist and energy master coach who works at the intersection of science and high performance, helping leaders optimize energy, resilience, and long-term success. So please help me welcome Dr. Doris Bell.
Yeah, hello, and thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to speak here. And as Hannah said, I'm a biologist, and I was so overwhelmed with all these great presentations today, already referring to nature. So I will take you maybe now a little bit more into our human body. So, have you ever made a decision about money and later realized it didn't come from clarity, but maybe from pressure, from urgency, or even from fear? Many women are building wealth today, but at the same time, they are quietly exhausting that system that makes wealth possible. So we talk a lot about strategy, scaling, mindset, but almost never do we speak about the system that drives all this, our biology, our body. So in the next few minutes, I want to show you three things. Why building success without recovery creates a biological debt. Why your internal state shapes every financial decision that you make. And the third, why mastering your thoughts is not, you could say, mindset work, but it is honestly biological regulation. Because your nervous system is your internal investment climate, so to say. And that climate determines how you build and how you sustain wealth. Let me show you what I mean. Your brain and body are not designed for constant output. They are designed for a cycle, activation and recovery. But many high-performing women, and especially those building businesses, they stay in activation mode all the time, always thinking, always deciding, always performing, and always responsible. Yeah, and biologically, this creates a problem. Stress hormones remain elevated. Your nervous system stays in alert, in stress mode, and the recovery process is suppressed. So even if you are building wealth externally, internally, you are depleting this very system that makes it possible. And this is what I call biological debt. And like financial debt, it accumulates silently until the performance suddenly drops. So let's talk about decision making, because this is at the core of wealth creation. We often assume that decisions are rational, that we think, analyze, and choose. But neuroscience shows something different. Your internal state comes first, and your decision follows. So if your system is regulated, balanced, you have access to clarity, long-term thinking, visions, your creativity, and a balanced risk assessment. Yeah. But if your system is in stress mode or even subtle anxiety, your brain will shift into survival mode. And in that survival state, you focus only on short-term decisions, short-term safety. You become more reactive than active, and your thinking narrows, and your emotional reactivity increases. So you are no longer emotionally balanced. Yeah. So If you are building wealth while feeling pressure, fear, or urgency, you are not making the same decision as you would in a regulated, relaxed state. And over time, that changes your entire trajectory. Now, here is where it becomes even more interesting, because what activates the stress response is often not the situation itself. So, like this year, this month, I did not earn enough money. Yeah, it's not the situation. It is the thoughts you have about it. There was a deadline, a financial risk, an unexpected setback. So the question is not just what is happening, but what are you telling yourself about it? Because thoughts like, this might fail, I am not doing enough, I could lose this money. Yeah, this is not just mental, but it triggers also emotions. So then it triggers a biological stress cascade. So your nervous system is activated and the cortisol level rises and your brain shifts into stress, into threat processing. So what I recommend is thought hygiene, being more aware of what you think. So the way you observe and then you regulate your thinking, this is not luxury. This is a core skill for high quality decision making. And especially if you want to build wealth, because decisions made under fear are usually not the decisions that create expansion. Yeah. And this is particularly relevant for women building businesses, because many of the internal drivers, high responsibility, perfectionism, the need to get it right, increase the likelihood of operating in stress state. So this is not about the capability, but about regulation, nervous system regulation and thought regulation. So let me summarize this for you. If your internal state shapes your decisions and your decisions shape the results, then the most powerful lever for building sustainable wealth is not outside of you. It is how you manage your own biology, not by pushing harder, but by regulating better. Because sustainable success is not just built through strategy, it is built through a system that can actually sustain it. So your nervous system is your internal investment climate. And that climate determines how you build and how you sustain wealth. So thank you for today. And if this resonates with you, just reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Doris Bell. I do have a question. I was wondering if you could do a little bit more of a deep dive when you were talking about our nervous system, the I think you called it thought hygiene.
Yeah.
Is there one or two tips that you could give us when it comes to thought hygiene, like that we can do? Because oftentimes women are under this insane pressure. And so our thoughts become a cluster of things.
Yeah. So what we think, often we are not aware of it. So this is the first step, that once we feel like under pressure, we take breath. That has been said today already. Yeah. And just take like 5 to 6 seconds, not more. It doesn't need more, but to relax. And then your prefrontal cortex is able to work again, to think. Otherwise, it will be it's a tiny piece in your brain, amygdala, that will take over. And that is just triggered by any kind of fear, and being under pressure. And if you have the luxury, and if you take that moment to calm down and then to be more aware of what you think, you can start moving that thought into a little higher direction. So question what you tell yourself. Often that voice is not from you. It might be the voice of your mother or of your grandmother or of someone else from who you met in your early childhood. So there are a lot of these programs running in our subconscious mind that we are not aware of. So it's subconscious. And you can then try to shift these thoughts, what you say to yourself, and make it a bit more positive. So we work a lot with affirmations, but that's not enough, of course. But just by moving to a more encouraging speech, so what you tell yourself. So, oh, I did it again, how lazy, how crazy, or what a fool. So these are the things that we usually tell ourselves. I mean, everyone has another voice, an internal voice, but this is exactly that you first need to become aware of. And that is already, I would say, a highway to success. Once you have understood that, and that you can change it, and that you will no longer, I mean, the triggers will still be there, but maybe you will not act as much emotionally to these triggers. Does this maybe answer your question?
It does. And I really love how you made it simplistic and just the thought hygiene. I mean, we have body hygiene, right? So why not have thought hygiene? So thank you. How can people connect with you?
I have a website, dorisbell.de, and on Instagram it's Coach Dr. Doris.
Well, thank you, Dr. Doris. All right, we've come to the end of the speakers today for today's Earth Day Wealth and Conscious Capital Summit. And so let's bring all of them up for one final question. And it is a doozy. So bring your A game, because people are watching and listening, and this is your space. Are you ready? All right. So the question is, how does what you shared today translate into real world impact, specifically in creating wealth that not only supports people, but also protects our planet through conscious capital? Do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
All right. So how does what you shared today translate into real world impact, specifically in creating wealth that not only supports people, but also supports our planet through conscious capital?
May I start?
Sure.
So I think if we reflect on who we really are, and taking aligned decisions, that has been said today already, and speaking from your heart and knowing what you really want, you will probably be much more aligned with humanity and with the world, and not chasing the next status symbol, which would be probably the thing that you think about if you if you are wealth. But if you are more conscious, that will really help you to put your money into things that are more aligned with all of us. I think Cheryl said it so great, this mycelial network that we are. Thank you for your talk, Cheryl.
Speaking of Sherelle, what would you say for the answer?
I think, or my intention, and I think we did well with it because you were all really great with it. When we look at what is happening at the earth, it's hard to even figure where we would start. But when you look back at how the earth has evolved and what is going on within the earth and how we can be more like that in our business, we can be more caring, we can be better people with our clients and better people with the people we hire. And all of those put together lifts up what is going on right now, because we're bringing in more joy, more care, and more connection with people and connections with the earth. I think it takes out the sense of feeling overwhelmed because you have connections. Some of those connections can be with the earth.
Thank you. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. So, Kathy, how do you think what you shared today translates into real world impact, specifically in creating wealth that not only supports people, but also our planet and future generations?
I believe that we feel separate from the earth and from the universe and from universal energy. And if we understood that everything we are, everything we think, feel, and dream about is actually a call from that earth universe, we would remove the fact that any feeling of selfishness or any negative feeling that takes us away from wealth creation by being fully aligned with who we are. And so what I wanted to convey, and I love how every single one of us did a little piece of that when we all bring our unique perspective, our genius, and we follow our dreams, that dream is the universe saying, please bring this into fruition for the betterment of all.
Awesome. All right. Again, I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I'm going to go to you, Hannah. How do you believe your message today can move beyond inspiration and actually drive wealth, impact, and conscious capital that protects our future generation?
I think it all starts with how we treat ourselves, and I really liked what Doris said about, that kind of the thought hygiene, and that if we're conducting ourselves and treating ourselves with respect, why are we not then putting that out into the business and treating the earth with respect as well? And I think that when we're building our wealth from a place of consciousness, and being consciously creative and really thinking about what we're doing, that can have so much more impact. And it's like, and that's the legacy that then we can leave for our future generations.
Okay. All right, Shannon. After hearing today's topics that were shared, is there anything that stood out to you that you would take away and implement? Like, it didn't, not only did it inspire you, but it made you want to step into action and doing something further in your current relationship with wealth consciousness, earth, sustainability. I think you're muted.
You think right. Okay. Well, everybody had something really amazing and unique to contribute, which is phenomenal. And we all also wove through aspects of earth consciousness and the planet. And we're women, and we're supposed to dance naked under the moon sometimes. And we're supposed to, be 42 personalities in one day sometimes, and sometimes in like 10 minutes. But what I wanted to take away is that, like, everybody has a sign on their head to me that says, I have something important in me, and I can share it if you just ask the right questions. And I think what I wanted to take away is, like, everybody has a great idea for how we can improve our society, improve the environment, improve our actions, but we don't necessarily want to take that step because we don't want to be the first one, or we don't want to be like disrupt the normal, even though normal isn't always great. It's just what is by the majority. It doesn't make it good. So what I wanted to take away is, like, getting women together to talk about this stuff. It doesn't have to be in a satsang or on a big platform where, it's a TED talk. It can just be, we sit around in a circle and pass around the brownies or the mushrooms or the mushroom brownies or whatever it is that we're doing, and just connect to each other and just like, hey, you have something brilliant inside of you. What is it? And then we can all kind of be in awe of each other. And I think that's what being a woman is about. That's what connection is about. And that's how we help heal and evolve and optimize the planet.
Thank you. All right, this one's for Yulia. Yulia, when you were talking about, helping women grow into 6- and 7-figure businesses, what is one thing with these women that you assist that directly correlates with what we're talking about today? Like, we do talk about, taking women into 6 and 7 figures, but do we also talk to these women about what to do with the 6 and 7 figures that connects to today's topic?
Yes. What I have found is helping women get to those levels is there are two types of women. There are one type of women that cannot get to that level of 6 and 7 figure. And there are other types of women that are at that level. I have worked with some incredible women that are so successful. They own private islands and everything. But there are two different types of women, but there's one thing that they share in common, and what I call it the capacity gap. It's that ability to build the success, but also to sustain it. So when we talk about sustainability and growth and planet, it's building that strength within that. And I honestly think we underestimate how beautiful and incredibly and strong Earth is. Earth is so powerful. It has incredible intuition. And when we are able to recognize that, how strong the ecosystem already is that's surrounding us, the planet, the earth, the water, the animals, the plants, everything, it's such a beautiful system. But then when we combine that with us not being able to be that same strong ecosystem, that's where the disconnect is. So I really do believe that we almost need to learn from nature how things operate, because we resist nature, we resist the natural process of life. These women, they build incredible businesses, but inside their ecosystem is collapsed. They're stressed, they have anxiety, they have overwhelm. So, but that's also happens with nature when we have those tornadoes and hurricanes. That's the system under pressure, and it releases that pressure. So when we are able to create the beautiful ecosystem within ourselves, also that's in alignment with how the nature operates, that's what I think the beautiful nature of the world is. And that's where I think we need to learn more from nature, how to create that cohesion, how to bring that sustainability and the flow, and just bring that somebody mentioned that female energy that into that as well. And I really think that's what it's about.
Thank you. Okay, Megan, this one's for you. Currently today, in the businesses that you run, what is something that you are definitely implementing that will better conscious capital, better the planet with what your current activities are today in your business?
Okay, cool. So I'm excited about this because I get to share something that I don't normally think to talk about. But early on, especially in my work with Girl on the Left, we implemented a partnership with a company called B1G1, Business for Good. And they do fantastic work where simple tasks that you go about in your day, like every time someone sends an email out of your organization, 5 cents gets redirected towards whatever. And you can choose different initiatives that you want to pair with. So you could be putting that towards like a woman in another country, helping get a textile business off the ground or something, or education for whoever, wherever that needs it. There's a ton of different causes you can back, and they get backed by you attaching them to parts of workflow in your business. So that's been a really cool thing to explore. And once you set it up, it just happens. So it's a really cool community to be in, and I absolutely love what they're doing. I wish more people knew about them.
That is what I was trying to dig for. Thank you. So each one of us has this extraordinary business, right, that we all talked about today. But what do we do with that for that conscious capital? How do we implement that into feeding our planet and making the earth better? And that is one big takeaway, was what Megan just said. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of you today for sharing your expertise, your knowledge, and your time. And I hope that those who watched and will watch will hear the importance of wealth and capital, the consciousness of both coming together, and that through our businesses, if we are scaling those businesses, if they are growing money wise, if we are growing health wise, as we heard from Shannon today and a few others, all of those things, if they go together, right, we've completed the circle. Then we take that and we implement it and we pour into our planet. We pour into the causes we love, the people that we love, and the list goes on and on and on. It's a ripple effect. And so Earth Day is every day. That wealth and conscious capital is every day. And so what do we do with this information today? How do we apply it in our very own businesses, in our very own homes, and even down to, as Megan mentioned, a simple email that feeds a cause. So connect to a cause, support something for the betterment of not only your business, but for our planet, for our earth. And I hope all of you will connect with these extraordinary women who took the time to speak to you today. You can reach out to them. You will hear from them. They have your information. And this concludes Earth Day Wealth and Conscious Capital Summit. Thank you so much, ladies. Everyone have a good afternoon. and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.